Well, hello, small group community. We are so glad you are joining us. We hope our conversation informs your conversation, helps your conversation. I am Tom, joined by Kelly Lippenholtz.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. This is week 2 of our series on expectations.
Yep, redirecting route, as you see right there.
Yes. All right, so let's get started. Let's jump in, Tom. Tell us something about culture that creates or stirs up unrealistic expectations for you.
Yeah, I think for me a little bit, just a couple of things. Having 8 kids, I can't compare how that my family is going to be run and some of the opportunities that are available to us with other people. You know,
I only have 2 kids. So.
Yeah, so most people are not living in with 8 kids. So all the advertising, all the marketing, all the, most people I see around me they don't have 8 kids. So I think at times I compare myself unrealistically to people who have 2 or 3 kids, and that's just, which is more the norm in our culture, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So you're expecting something of your family or your kids to operate a certain way, and it's unrealistic because there's 8 of them.
Right. Our household. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, I have a lot of unrealistic expectations. I think I expect my children love to tell me at this age that they're emerging adults or that they are adults. They think that the day they turned 18, they are an adult.
Right.
And so I try to expect things of them as adults, and that is an unrealistic expectation.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about maybe some people in our lives. We're not going to talk about people.
Maybe we should.
But the question we want to ask you, or we want you to explore in your small groups today is there a person in your life that you have unrealistic expectations of?
Yeah, or haven't communicated them, or
Right.
you need to get more realistic in your expectations, because we said what unrealistic expectations are either because they're not grounded in reality, or because we've never communicated and clarified them and confirmed them, which we'll talk about in a second. So, and the answer is, by the way, yes.
Well, yeah.
If you don't have somebody that's not meeting your expectations in your life, I don't know. Well, then you need to be here in the podcast and telling us how you've done that.
Right. I mean, Tom and I just had a moment before the podcast where I had a different scripture and he expected a different scripture than the one that I chose. And we had this moment where we had different expectations,
right,
and we didn't communicate them and we didn't clarify them.
Yeah, that's on me. That was I did not, because I knew what I wanted to use. And so I did not,
Oh,
I clarified it in my own head.
Okay.
But
That's good. Step 1.
I neither communicated it nor confirmed it with you.
Okay.
So that was
Great.
an easy one.
All
And
right.
I think too, again, we don't want to talk about people, but we can talk about our kids, as you just did. So,
Yeah.
a little bit, I have an expectation in my household that our kids are going to help with some of the chores. And I think it's pretty clear. But it happens all the time. So some of the chores I want done are not being done. And so I guess I need to work on either the clarifying or the communicating, maybe the why behind the what. I don't know if I've always ever communicated that. I just said, hey, you're going to do it. And then confirming maybe they understand it. That's a little bit what I need to work on. But yeah, that's one example from my life.
Okay. Let's explore some scripture. What does God say about this, about the expectations that we have for people and how to manage those expectations?
Yeah, so we have the scripture from the passage, this past weekend's passage is really a lot about money and stuff like that Jesus is talking about, but he kind of gives us one really good insight into human beings and human nature. And so after talking about the parable, the dishonest steward, and you're going to pull it up, or is it not working? The keynote's not working.
It's not working.
All right, so we're just going to go with it. I got enough in my head. So in Luke 16:10, Jesus says, "He who is trustworthy in very small matters is going to be trustworthy in great ones, and he who is dishonest in small matters is going to be dishonest with great ones." And so the whole point is Jesus is saying there's a pattern to human behavior, and we should count on that pattern continuing. And that's kind of really common sense.
Right.
But sometimes, oftentimes, we start setting unrealistic expectations for other people based on what we value or who we are, and not on who they are or who their patterns of behavior have been.
That's brilliant. I've heard it said, when somebody tells you who they are, listen to them the first time. I mean, maybe the third time.
Yeah.
You give them 3 tries. But if they're dishonest consistently, if they don't meet your expectations consistently, then it's time to change your expectation.
Right. I remember a moment with my dad, and I was probably 18, 22, somewhere in that range, like college, definitely
The
college
emerging
age.
adult.
Yeah, I was an emerging adult, and I think you can be a little snippy with your parents. But so I mean, I should have more compassion for my kids. But my dad was complaining my mom was late. My mom was always late.
Mm-hmm.
She just was late. And I'm like, Dad, you've been married for 25 years. You'd think by now you'd learn that mom is always late. It's sort of like those ideas that in workplace, in family, in friendships, when someone, like you said, shows a consistent behavior, not that people can't grow,
Sure,
but if nothing changes, nothing changes. And some things never will, I don't know.
Well,
we have to realize who people are.
Some things won't change, but they definitely aren't going to change if you never clarify the expectation in your head and then communicate the expectation to the other person. Which again, we're gonna talk about a process for you to do that in just a moment.
Okay.
So the opposite is true too. The other half of the scripture is that if somebody is trustworthy, then we can trust them.
Yeah. Usually, it's a realistic expectation. If someone has a pattern of doing something, then we can expect them to do it again. Again, workplaces, you've seen someone prove themselves to be competent in a certain way. You expect them to be confident. You have a realistic expectation they're going to keep doing that job well. Again, you give somebody a job and they don't do it well, then don't keep doing it. Now, maybe it means they need to be repositioned. Maybe there's another place in the workplace that they do really well. They do something really well, and all right, give them more of that. And then they're not doing this thing well. We'll stop and have that conversation, which we'll talk about in a second, and reposition them. So.
Yeah, so before we do get to our tool for how to communicate this really well, let's connect this to loving others for you. I mean, that's something we want to be doing, loving God and loving others. And so how is this managing expectations and communicating them part of loving others?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, having realistic expectations of others, it's loving them, accepting them where they are, and not where we want them to be, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe they're growing, and we have to have patience for their growing, or maybe again, it's just not a gift or ability, and we have to accept them for again who they are, not who we want them to be, or not who we are and what we value. So there's that part, and then I think it is. And what we're going to get to, it is very vulnerable, I think, to share our expectations with others because they might not accept it. They might not agree upon it.
Right.
But it's loving enough them to say, I'm going to take the time to slow down, to be with you and communicate and to clarify and confirm all these things we're going to talk about.
Right.
Second, what I expect with you so we can live in right relationship. So it's about living in right relationship with people, and that's loving people.
Yeah, as parents, I feel like we have really big expectations for our children, and I have an expectation for one of my sons about the direction of his life, and he has a different idea for it. And in that case, I'm not going to change it because he is an emerging adult, and so it's difficult. But having the conversation allows you to live together well, as you were saying. I just want to love him.
Okay.
And
that's good.
Direct his life. Yeah. But it's a decision that you make. Like, I'm just going to love him, and this is how. I'm not going to try to direct his life with the expectations that I had for him. He's going to go in this other direction, which isn't a bad direction. It's just not what I expected.
Right. You want to give him guidance, but not control.
Yes. Okay. So here's how to have that conversation. Let's jump in to this tool. The tool is, it's posted on our website, so you can grab it. There's a digital copy for you. And this is it. It's sitting down and clarifying your own expectations in your mind of what you're expecting. And those questions are, is my expectation realistic? Right? That's number one.
Yeah. And I think
Can the person do it?
Right.
Right? Are they capable? Are they willing?
Right.
And then the second question would be, have they agreed to this expectation?
Right. Have we communicated to them in a way they can agree upon and they understand and they get it, So for me, communicating, hey, every night you have a chore to help to the household.
Yep.
Do you understand that you need to do this? And I think one thing I have to communicate is I want it done by a certain time. I don't want it done at the end of the night. So we communicate clearly what it is. And then, you want me to go to this one? Or you want to
go ahead.
And then last week, you have to confirm they got it, right? And that's a hard, make sure, hey, you understand, think about A Few Good Men. Are we clear? Crystal. Right. We want to be crystal clear that they got it. And there's a way not to ask that like condescendingly, but can we say, hey, are we on the same page on this? Yeah. And confirm it. So that's simple process, which is simple but not easy. But
Yeah.
we can at least talk about this in our small groups.
Yep. Very simple process. Clarify, communicate it, confirm it. Thanks so much for joining us for the podcast today. We'll see you next time. We hope our conversation informs your conversation.
Thanks for participating in small groups. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single video. You can be part of our mission to love God, love others, and make disciples simply by sharing this video. We're so grateful you're part of our community.